So let's talk about the left and the right in politics. I mean, on both sides, most agree, because compassionate conservatives, that society has a moral obligation to help care for those who can't care for themselves, as opposed to those who won't care for themselves. The difference between the left and the right in the issue, though, tends to be on who they feel should be helping people out. I mean, the left tends to support forming government departments and policies and programs to deal with social needs, while the right tends to support charities and volunteers. Well, let's face it, the left has been winning that battle as the government's grown exponentially, while charitable donations and volunteerism are in sharp decline. The federal civil service is growing at 3 times the rate of population, while services, of course, anybody knows from the government, are getting worse than ever. But the losers in this trend, the biggest ones are the people who are in need and taxpayers. In 2012, over a quarter of Canadians filing tax returns had made charitable donations. By 2022, in just 10 years, that dropped to 1 in 6 people, and that decline is continuing. Volunteer-heavy charity groups from Meals on Wheels to Girl Guides have been scaling back their services as fewer people sign up to help out. And again, meanwhile, the size of Canada's government and civil service has been growing out of control. Every government department is bloated and inefficient, but no politicians have found the courage to make any cuts yet. But they're going to have to. Austerity is inevitable. Canada's government is on the brink of collapsing under its own weight, and politicians won't be able to kick the can of cuts down the road much longer. And when those cuts come, the pain's going to be very tough for people, because we've let so many people become reliant on government services. As slow and as inept as Canada's government is now the only thing separating a lot of people from actual homelessness and starvation. I can't think of any institution worse to be dependent on than the bloody government if you're in that condition. There have been several factors contributing to this mess. I mean, some of it's just been sloth on the part of voters. They vote for whoever promises the most goodies, whoever will blow the most smoke up their butt, and whoever promises to take the most responsibility, social responsibility, off their hands. It's easier to think the government will fix it than to think maybe you should be the one fixing things, right? So let's just hand it off to them. Unfortunately, governments rarely solve problems. They just expand and create new ones. Now we've got tough economic times contributing to the drops in charitable donations, and it's a self-perpetuating problem. As Canada's bloated, parasitic bureaucracy grows, productivity drops, the dollar loses value, GDP per capita shrinks, and taxes rise. Then fewer people can afford to donate to charities, so the government expands to cover the void and drives more people into poverty, thus needing more government aid. More recently, of course, the postal strike. They've hit charities hard. Charities used to raise a lot of funds through mailouts and getting checks. The prime time for fundraising right now, and it's during the Christmas season, and charities are having a tough time while postal workers try to fight against progress. Everybody's losing as postal workers are striking themselves into obsolescence, but it's also striking charities out of business. The COVID lockdowns, they decimated volunteer-based organizations as the state made it illegal for people to gather to help each other out. Once the habit of volunteering has been broken, it's hard to get back into the swing of things. Again, as people got used to staying at home and began embracing the attitude of, well, government will take care of everything. We need to return to community-based care for each other, guys. Charities, volunteer organizations, and a sense of personal responsibility. That's the hard one. For social ills, it has to return. Unfortunately, things are going to have to get worse before they get better. I know charities are far from perfect. I mean, we can't forget the We charity. Many also have become top-heavy with administration, and some are outright corrupt. But for the most part, they did better work for people in need than any government program ever could. And they'll be needed more than ever soon. A good competitive charity environment helps weed out the bad ones. People are facing a tough Christmas this year. I know our pockets aren't as full as they used to be, but we should be seeking ways to dig a little deeper and try and help our fellow citizens through some of the better charities, or maybe dedicating some time with the local organizations. It's satisfying, it's good for the community, and it'll help far more people than the government ever will. Look, we're in a rut right now. We will dig ourselves out, but it's going to take some time. We can shorten that time frame, though, as we start changing our habits now. We can shrink the government, remind ourselves it's the people, not governments, that create a prosperous, cohesive society. So let's take back our role from the government, guys, and we can start with charities and volunteering.